you check the children. Show a little match sometimes.
Hi, I'm Chucky. Wanna play?
Sometimes. That is what
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Horror Show. I'm Cecil, Laird, and I'm here to review the brand new release from Fuzz on the Lens Productions, the team behind the Terrifier films. Not the same director, but the same team that worked on specifically Terrifier 2 and 3 did indeed work on this. And the director of the Terrifier films, Damien Leone, or Leone, I'm not really sure which way it is to say it, but he is doing all of the gore effects, the special gore effects and stuff. So he's still involved, and this is one that a lot of people have been looking forward to. I had a little bit of skepticism with this because, frankly, it's because I was frustrated with people commenting, this is another movie by the guys that did Terrifier. And I'm like, yes and no. Like, it's the same people, but they're not in the same positions necessarily. So yeah, it's a little bit different than that, and I started to just get frustrated with people. But outside of that, we kept getting notifications about stars that were in it, you know, horror royalty and stuff, and it just started to sound like more and more and more, and it gave me a little bit of Death House vibes, right, which sold itself entirely on all the celebrities and ended up being one of the worst piece of shit movies ever to have been thrown into the horror genre. This one definitely is not that. So I was skeptical about it, but I will say that the issues I had with this film were completely different from the issues I thought I was going to have with this film. So, but I did give it a fair shake, and there were definitely some things that I appreciated about the film. So we'll get into all of it, but that's pretty much my overall thoughts. Now, the story is very simple. It's about a family that is going on a trip to try and reconnect as family, and they go to this hotel that's a sort of low-res hotel, in as much as there's no Wi-Fi. There's not a whole lot of much for kids nowadays to do unless they have games downloaded on their tablet and stuff like that. So they go there to reconnect, and it just so happens that the night they check in, a game starts, and this is all revealed in the trailer, but it's basically a game where killers attempt to kill people that are staying in the hotel for points, and it is being streamed elsewhere, presumably to people that are betting on such things. So that's the setup, and here's the thing, guys. Let me start off also by saying that I'm a big fan of the Terrifier films. Terrifier 1 and 2 are all that are out as of this review. I am very much excited about Terrifier 3. I thought Terrifier 2 was better than Terrifier 1. I do think it was way too long. I think it could have been, you know, shortened up, tightened up, and it would have been stronger for it. But it was still a very strong movie, and definitely stronger than the first installment. We talked about all the reasons why in our Terrifier 2 review. This one is 2 hours and 10 minutes long. It's a long time for this premise. This movie, I feel, could have benefited from 30 to 40 minutes being shaved off. If this was a lean, mean 80 to 90 minutes, I think it would have been a lot better, because the extra time we got didn't do anything, right? There's one thing one character does to kind of exit the film for a period of time, and ultimately it's completely nullified, and it's just, I don't know why, it's just to remove this character from the film for a period of time for whatever reason, and like literally it ends up not mattering at all. And there was a lot of that in this film. Additionally, one character that was introduced pretty prominently that factors into that other character's story a little bit completely disappears from the film. Never seen from again at one point. And I was like, oh, they must be one of the people that's going to be revealed to be the killer. But no, they just disappear from the film. So that was a little strange. But you know, well, we'll get to the acting in a second, but yeah, the story just played out. It was way too long. There were tremendous opportunities to shorten up The chases, I know they were trying to build tension, but they were overbuilding and making it like, come on guys, what are we doing here? Let's do it. Let's get to the meat and potatoes. You know what I mean? Jeffrey Combs was, showtime and all that stuff. And it's like, the showtime took a very long time. And a couple of the killers, decisions were questionable. A couple of the other characters' decisions were questionable. One character that did a turn at one point in the movie came completely out of nowhere, but not in any sort of satisfying way. It was actually kind of confusing why it was going down this way and what sort of access this character ended up having. It was very strange. So what that boils down to me is scripting issues. So it's too long and there's too many detours that don't do anything. And really the whole thing is just a showcase for creative kills. A showcase for kills. Because outside of one that was a two-person activity, everything else was pretty boring kill-wise, unfortunately. It was all very gory, very well portrayed practical effects-wise. Damien Leone did a wonderful job with that. But otherwise, the kills were written pretty rotely, in my opinion. Like just stuff we've kind of seen before. They threw a couple of twists on things, but nothing that like blew me away where I was like, ooh, that's new. Like In a Violent Nature had a kill that did that. And I was thinking that the team behind Terrifier, the Terrifier films, would be able to come up with some really cool creative kills. Unfortunately, outside of, like I said, the one that's a pair situation, there was nothing that was really that intriguing or engaging for me. And I'm a big gore hound. Like, I'm not ashamed to say, I like the Hostel movies. I like the Saw movies because I like the portrayal of the gore and stuff. Doesn't need to be in horror movies, but I do appreciate it when it's done and done well and done practically, as it is here. So there is that. The killers, there's 4 killers, and they each are kind of unique in their own way. There's the big buff burly one, the big bald buff burly dude. I like alliteration. He was actually pretty intimidating. There was the number 1 guy, which is just essentially a dude in a mask that looks kind of straight out of The Purge. All the masks kind of look Purge-ish, unfortunately. And then there's a duo that one of which is played by David Howard Thornton. Okay, David Howard Thornton plays Art the Clown in the Terrifier films. My issue here is he's playing another silent, flamboyant killer. And I do mean flamboyant in the dictionary definition, not in any sort of stupid, bro-ish kind of, derogatory way. I mean literally flamboyant, loving attention, being of style. I love that about David being able to bring that to roles, but it's the same thing, just less opportunity to emote because he's under a mask the whole time. So that was a little frustrating for me. I wanted to see him stretch a little bit and do maybe something a bit different, but he was the most interesting of all the killers to watch. His partner killer was interesting to watch for different reasons, but I'm a red-blooded male, so what am I going to do? You know what I mean? Now the acting, I will say the horror stars that we got in this, here's what I liked. They weren't exploited and they weren't run throughout the entire movie the way Death House did. They're used well, but they're used almost in cameo lengths. A couple in specific, but I won't tell you which ones those are, but we did get to see some horror royalty. We got Dee Wallace, we got Felissa Rose, we got Tony Todd, we got and a couple of others that it was nice to see, but luckily it wasn't hinging on them. They played their characters and they played their characters well, so I did appreciate that. The unknown actors, there was a little boy, he did pretty well. The father of the family did okay. He did a pretty good job, in my opinion. Again, I'm trying, I no offense to any of the people involved, but I'm just giving my opinion. I feel like he had a lot of heavy lifting to do, the father, and he did a good job, but he was given a lot, and Yeah, I'll leave it at that. And his wife, played by Danielle Harris, other horror royalty. By the way, shout out to Danielle Harris, because I'm not sure how old she is, but she still doesn't look quite old enough to be a mom of the age kids that she had in this movie. You know, kudos to her. She's just not quite there yet. She still reads as too young for that, in my opinion. But yeah, everyone did their jobs fine, but some of the newer actors I feel like struggled a little bit. The main daughter actress, I appreciated what she was trying to bring to the role, but I couldn't take my eyes off of one specific physical feature that she has, and that's not in a gross way. You'll see what I mean when you watch it. But yeah, it was an interesting grouping of actors and how they played off of each other. I believe one of the actors was Mike Hanlon from the It miniseries, if I'm not mistaken. I think it was the miniseries and not the 2017 series, but he played the adult Mike Hanlon. I think that was the character's name. But yeah, he did a good job. But yeah, I don't know, guys. It was just such a weird mixed bag for me, and the fact that it was 2 hours and 10 minutes really didn't do it any favors, because it just allowed for time to focus on the things that were maybe shortcomings as opposed to the strengths. I feel like an 80-90 minute version of this movie would have been a lot more strong, with a lot less moments of weakness, a lot less, you know, chinks in the armor, so to speak. But you know, it is what it is, and it's a good first effort. Definitely sequel baited. Obviously the premise lends itself to an ongoing series in the vein of The Purge and things like that. So that's well and good, but you know, I feel like they could learn a few things from this and address those shortcomings in future installments, and it could be a real seriously cool series. I will be watching future installments. I just hope that they correct a few things along the way. Filmmaking wise, it was fine. It was, you know, it's a movie about deaths being streamed, so there's a lot of corner cameras and ceiling cameras and you know, hidden cameras and things like that, in addition to the standard filming techniques, you know, of a regular film as opposed to a found footage film with placed cameras. This is a mixture of both. But nothing was done that was really overwhelming, like, wow, that was a really cool shot. Like, the very first shot is interesting because it starts, you know, with a cell phone vertical, and then it kind of switches to the widescreen format. So that was, like, interesting, and then nothing like that was ever done again through the rest of the movie. So I was like, okay, we had a stylized first shot, and then nothing else like it for the rest of the film. But yeah, so filmmaking wise, it was fine. Didn't blow me away. You know, kind of street level, so to speak, if that makes any sense, just based on what comes to mind when you think about that. And then the effects. I did mention that the gore effects are practical, almost entirely practical. I don't remember seeing what I recognized as CG blood spurts anywhere. So I like that. You know, they clearly, the Terrifier films have shown that they know their way around practical effects, especially Damien himself. And that was followed through on in this one. I just wish the kills were a bit more creative, personally, because I know they have that in them. And the premise lends to creative kills, because environmental kills are on the table. You know, random weapon kills are on the table. What's lying around that could be a weapon kind of kills are on the table. And I just don't feel like they went for that. They went for pretty standard fare, things that we've seen before in many other films, many other times. Again, outside of the one pair kill that was really, it was it was still overly long and drawn out, but it was a really cool idea, and it was fun to see them do it. But yeah, it's otherwise kind of unremarkable that way. But again, the effects were solid. Sound design and score. I can't really say much about the score. It didn't really jump out to me in particular. You know, I'm sure it was there, but it's weird. Unless it's like really unique, I don't tend to notice score on my first time watching films a lot of times. And then sound design, it was fine. You know, they didn't use the sound design for a lot of storytelling. It was just kind of there, you know, it wasn't utilized to kind of like bring people a certain direction or things like that. So It was just kind of there, but it was fine. It didn't, there, sound can easily take you out of a film quicker than video can, and there was nothing that took me out of the film. The sound design was all there. Nothing, I wasn't like, oh man, you know, that was weird, or that, everything was fine on that front. Lots of good crunching, you know, lots of good gore sounds. So yeah, they did excel on that front. But overall, I mean, I think that covers everything for the film that I can talk about in a non-spoiler fashion. Does all that sound like something that interests you? Great. If you're a gore hound and you just kind of want to see that kind of thing, then wonderful. You're going to be served up, but you're going to be served up a 2-hour and 10-minute platter. So be ready for that. Overall, do I think that it's worth... Well, I tell you what, it doesn't even matter if I think it's worth going to the theater or not for, because I saw it on the second of a 2-day event that they were doing. So I did actually pay for this. I do the AMC A-list, and I use that for almost every movie that I watch, but I had to pay $15 to watch this one. I'm glad I did, just because I want to be able to get the review out there, but it wasn't necessary to see this in the theater. It'll be streaming soon enough, and it'll be worth your time to watch on streaming. I'm guessing it'll hit a Shudder or a Screambox. But yeah, it'll be worth your time to watch there. Just be prepared to maybe watch it in 1.5 times speed for a couple of sections. So there you go, guys. That's where I'll call it for my review of Stream. Let me know what your thoughts are in those comments down below. Did you watch it? I'd be curious to know what your thoughts are if you did. Try and keep it non-spoilery if you possibly can. But thank you guys very much for watching. Thank you to all of our patrons for supporting the channel the way that you do. Until next time, I've been Cecil Laird, and remember, stay scared.